Welcome to the Theosophical Society in Atlanta. Our Sunday lectures feature a variety of topics in those areas related to the esoteric sciences. Before we begin, please turn off your cell phones. This discussion is being recorded by the Atlanta Forum Network and will be available online at www.atlantaforum.network.org. Let's take a moment and listen to this benediction. O hidden light, O hidden life, vibrant in every atom, O hidden light, shining in every creature, O hidden love, embracing all in oneness, may each who feels himself as one with thee know he is therefore one with every other. That's from Annie Besant. If you or someone you know would like to present a lecture, please see Brian James, right there. He'd be happy to help you. Our guest speaker today is Lois Grant, PhD. She'll be giving us a talk on clearing our path. Lois is a local healing practitioner, holistic counselor, author, and president of Angelic Beings of Light Enterprises here in the Atlanta area. Lois will discuss the many things we run across on a daily basis along our journey to a deeper understanding. She will give us some practical advice and methodology using theosophical precepts to help remove these hurdles that we build via our lower ego. By learning to remove or keep from forming obstacles, we may walk unimpeded along our spiritual path. Please give a warm welcome to Lois Grant.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here with the Theosophical Society again. And I want to reassure some of you who've heard me talk, like Les probably has heard me talk 5 or 6 times. This is a new topic for me to take out into the world. For those of you who don't know me, I'll just give you the quick and dirty synopsis of my life because I think it's been pretty interesting. In 1975, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and it quickly became clinically severe. As you can see, I still bear the scars. In 1982, I started meditating, and that was really the beginning of getting on the spiritual path as an effort to heal my body. Fast forward to 1997, I took my last prescription drug, and I counted my healing as complete at that time. It took me 15 years. In 2007, my naturopath told me, your body no longer recognizes the energetic imprint for the arthritis. This means it's totally out of my cells. Big moment. And then almost as big, 2 years ago, I went to a woman who hooked me up to a computer, with all the diodes and so forth, and she's telling me, you need to take this acidophilus and this backflower remedy and so forth. And then she says, how old are you? And I said, I'm going to be 70 in June. And she says, your biological age is 50. So it works. What I'm doing has worked for me anyway, and I now teach a class. I've written 2 books, I've made 2 CDs of meditations, and I still teach my class. And Margie in the back row there took it, what year was that, like 2002 or something? And it's going to start again in 3 weeks. I have flyers for you in case you're interested. It's changed a lot. So today, I want to talk about your ego. We're going to talk about what the ego is, why do we have it, how to recognize it, and how to control it instead of letting it control you. So after I wrote Spirit at Work, which by the way is my book, Brian, do you want to hold that up? They're back there on the table, and those of you who don't have one, I'm now giving them away. Oh, there's one there. Because we printed a few too many. It's now 12 years old, and we're just trying to get them out of the basement. So if you would please take one. I've given each one a generic autograph. Thank you. Spirit at Work, A Journey of Healing. And if you want to know how I did it, Took me about 300 pages of this book to tell how I did it. So maybe more than you want to know. And if you want a personalized autograph, I will be happy to do that after the talk. So after I wrote the book, I started teaching these classes that I mentioned, and I structured them around my 12 steps for healing. I noticed that after the first class or two, and people started doing the things that I recommend, like meditate, journal, drink water, these were big changes for some people. And they'd start having bad dreams or negative feelings and thoughts, and I thought, what's going on? They're doing what I say and they don't feel better. You know, this was supposed to help people heal and grow. And then I realized, just one of those great moments, that their ego was coming up because they were making changes, and the ego doesn't like change. The ego doesn't want you to meditate, to journal, to become more self-aware, to become more conscious, because we have let the ego become too much in control. So now when I teach the class, in the very first class of 10 Saturday mornings, I tell them about the ego. If you feel these things coming up after you do what I say, it's okay. Do not be afraid. Call me. I will work you through it. We can go through an exercise to clear it out of the way so that you can process what it is that the ego has been holding in place. And it's really a good thing, because this means that you're doing work that needs to be done to clear the stuff away so you can become who you really are. And it has worked very well. So in Latin, ego, the word ego, literally is the word for I. Ego ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Psychologists use the word ego to mean the conscious mind. And according to the dictionary, the ego is the self, or the individual. Sai Baba says God equals man minus the ego. So just think about what that is. Man, woman, humanity, minus the ego equals God, goddess, all there is. Without our ego, who are we? We are pure spirit, which I think we know that intellectually, especially a group like this. You know that you are spirit having a human experience. But a lot of people are not aware of that, and that's why we need to work to clear the ego, because then we can become the God, goddess, the spirit, source, creator. I also like this description written by a woman in North Carolina. The ego is the illusion which separates us from our true reality. So what is our true reality? It's what I was just saying, spirit. And the ego comes in and creates this illusion. In fact, we create it so that we can clear it. I think there's huge learning in that, and that was part of my experience in healing my body, was to clear away all that stuff I had put in place for lifetimes. I love technology when it works. Thank you, Brian. A Course in Miracles says we basically have two choices, love or fear. It's like the angel on one side and the devil at one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder. You've seen that in a million cartoons. And there's another story that's been going around the internet, and I'm going to read it to you. An old grandfather whose grandson came to him with anger at a schoolmate who had done him an injustice said, "Let me tell you a story. I too at times have felt a great hate for those who have taken so much with no sorrow for what they do. But hate wears you down and does not hurt your enemy. It is like taking poison and wishing your enemy would die." I have struggled with these feelings many times, the grandfather continued. It is as if there were two wolves inside me. One is good and does no harm. He lives in harmony with all around him and does not take offense when no offense was intended. He will only fight when it is right to do so and in the right way. But the other wolf, he is full of anger. The littlest thing will set him into a temper. He fights everyone all the time for no reason. He cannot think because his anger and hate are so great. It is hard to live with these two wolves inside me, for both of them try to dominate my spirit. The boy considered all this and then looked intently into his grandfather's eyes and said, "Which one wins, grandfather?" The grandfather solemnly said, "The one I feed." So it's important to remember that we always have a choice. In fact, I see creation as this great spirit sitting up there on his throne. He says, "Oh, wow, I'm this big omniscient being, and I'm really powerful, and it feels really good, but it's really boring to just be perfect, you know? I think I'll create a planet and split myself into 6 billion fragments and give everybody free will." And this is exactly what is playing out right now on this planet. Everybody has the same right to make every choice that they make, and no choice is right or wrong. We tend to judge these things, and I had a difficult experience with this. In fact, if you read Spirit at Work, you'll read about my friend, I call him Kenny in the book, who had hepatitis. He was a gay man who was married, had 3 children, was very deeply in the closet. And his hepatitis got worse, and he started realizing that he needed to become more of who he was. And we had lunch one day, and he said, "It would be easier for me to kill myself than to do what I have to do." I mean, I literally choked on my sandwich, and the tears came to my eyes. And that's exactly what he proceeded to do. He did come out to some extent. He had a liver transplant, which worked for about 5 years, and then he passed away in 2004. It was easier for him to kill himself, to literally not get well. And it was really hard for Lois because I was judging that it would have been better for him to heal himself. He was very powerful. He was the one channeling the angels for me. It's in the book. But he chose not to. I know now, with the distance of time and perspective that I have now, that he had the right to make that choice. It was not my life, it's his life. He had the right to choose to do that. He will be coming back as a gay man who's married, and he will go through the process of becoming who he truly is in his human body. Another source says the ego is the judger. Ego was created as a monitoring system for physicality. It monitors all the information that comes in, and its job is to inform us when things change. Your body is set up to recognize change, and ego's job is to monitor those changes, not to judge the changes, but just to inform you, by the way, there's been a change. There's a saber-toothed tiger behind that rock. You might want to be careful. Don't step out in front of that truck. We need the ego to survive. Seth says, the ego is the I am not part of the mind instead of the I am. The ego is the thinking mind, the part of the mind that sees itself as separate from God, from others, and therefore it generates fear, worry, and misery, which are preoccupations of looking at the past or the future. The ego is that part of the mind that seeks to understand and misunderstands. Ego thinks it knows better than divine consciousness what you should do. That's that judgment thing again. I know better than you do how you should live your life. You should heal yourself. I don't think so, not this time. And that's okay. Ego is reasoning power, so reason is the reason you're so miserable. Think about that one. Now, all that being said, the ego is our friend. The ego is a tool. It's like fire or electricity. We can use it for many purposes, for good or what we think is good or ill. It's our choice. But it is ours, the ego is ours to control from the inside out, not the outside in. And Eckhart Tolle says the ego isn't wrong or bad, it's just unconscious and trying to make us unconscious. So speaking of Eckhart Tolle, how many of you participated in Oprah's events last year? I thought that was a monumental thing, 11 million people, all becoming more conscious I think it had a huge effect on the planet. He's brilliant. So we have an ego because we needed this necessary survival programming as human beings. It's like a software program. Its job was to observe and tell us when we might be in danger, as the saber-toothed tiger that I just mentioned. Its job is to keep us safe from what is judged to be bad, wrong, or dangerous. But as socialization increased and interpersonal relationships became more complex, the ego began to influence the emotional and mental bodies. It began embracing judgment, and we let it do that. And it transformed itself not to be just a monitor, but also a warning system, interpreter of the environment, anticipator, planner. Ego now judges the changes and determines what is good and bad, and then takes upon itself to prevent or cause changes. We're now at a point in our popular culture where many people are completely run by their egos. All you have to do is turn on that ego machine in your living room. I mean your television. You'll be reminded that your body smells, you have bad breath, your laundry isn't clean enough, you're dirty, there are germs in your bathroom, and you need to talk to your doctor about all the drugs you should be taking. And then you have to listen to the side effects. My favorite side effect is the asthma drug that may increase the risk of asthma-related death. Don't you want to try that one? Or the restless leg syndrome drug that may increase gambling. It's like, then we have, of course, the terrible threat from terrorism, and we need to be thinking about this and being suspicious all the time. I really don't like, I am judging, that I don't like, when I go through security, that everybody's suspect. It's like, can't I just say, I'm an old soul, I'm not going to blow up this airplane? So it's helpful in the face of this onslaught of negativity to remember that our world is really just an illusion. It's something that we have created, and we are creating it continuously with our thoughts. Speaking of illnesses, I have a client who called me the other night, and she asked me to do some sound therapy over the phone because she had shingles. And I said, well, what's going on with you? You know, how were you feeling when you got the shingles? And she says, well, my friend got the vaccine from her doctor, and she told me that I should get it. And then I started worrying about getting shingles. And higher self says, you want to get shingles? We can do that. Boom, done. So that's how powerful our choices are. Every thought we put out is creating our life. And what I teach people to do is to create it consciously. Don't just be subject to the ego, to the popular culture. Decide what you want. You know, instead of saying, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to get shingles. No, I am happy and healthy. My body is healthy. Peace and love and joy are what I know, or whatever, you know, I love and approve of myself at all times. Just, can you tell I like the affirmations? You can't do it with affirmations alone, but it can be very helpful as you're retraining your mind and your ego. I do my best to detach when something happens, and I still have things happen to me that I don't like. But I more quickly remember to neutralize. In fact, I was on an airplane a couple of years ago, and we're flying along, and all of a sudden it dropped. And my first thought was, I am safe. And I thought, wow, because I lived with fear. My mother was full of fear, and she passed it all along to me. And that it was just a really great moment for me to realize I had come that far. So my current mantra is, I love this Ho'oponopono. How many of you know what Ho'oponopono? Okay, it's a really long word because it's Hawaiian. This comes from the Huna healers. And there's a story, Joe Vitale, who you may know from The Secret, tells this story about Dr. Len, who went into this ward. It was a psychopathic prison and hospital ward, I believe. And he didn't do any, I mean, nobody wanted to work there because the inmates were really violent and unhappy and miserable and fighting and so forth. And but he volunteered to go in there. But he didn't work with the patients. He sat there with their file folders, and he would say, I love you, I'm sorry. Next file folder, I love you, I'm sorry. And over a period of several months, he transformed that ward from a psycho ward into a place where people started getting better. And that's how simple it is. So when something happens to me, I've created my own little Ho'oponopono that's a little bit different from that. I say, I love you, I forgive you. I love you, I forgive you. I love you, I forgive you. I say all these things 3 times now, once for the conscious mind, subconscious, and superconscious. And then I say, I love you, I'm sorry. Please forgive me, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry. Please forgive me, thank you. I love you, I'm sorry. Please forgive me, thank you. So how does that make you feel when I say that? Do you just feel the anger diffusing? When I start thinking it, it just diffuses. And hopefully the person on the other end that I am loving and forgiving is feeling the effect too, whether they know it consciously or not. And of course, there's probably no way they're going to figure out what it is. But you put those thoughts out to the universe, and it's going to have a healing effect, not just on you, but everybody. Just the energies that you're putting out there are blessing the planet. So we want to recognize the ego when it comes up. It's important to know that nothing is good or bad. Really, that's hard to go there, to not judge. And as for years, I worked as an architect. And I mean, the whole point of being an architect is to look and say, well, this ceiling is going to be better than that ceiling, or, you know, these light fixtures don't work as well as that, or this is crooked. You're always looking at things and seeing how they could be made better. This, I believe, the answer, the way I resolve it with myself is that that's discernment, not judgment. Judgment comes from the ego. Judgment is negative. Discernment is more positive and coming, hopefully, from a place of love. That's my goal. So anytime we're realizing that we're not coming from a place of love, it's important to say, oh, it's my ego. It's that wolf that we don't want to feed. So how do we not feed it? We have to know what it is. So Deepak Chopra has a very nice list. I think it's in his book, How to Know God. What the ego needs. The ego needs to win. How does that fit into our culture? Competition. The ego wants to prove itself by taking risks. The ego wants to have power over others. Sound familiar? The ego wants to make the rules. The ego wants to be in control and wants to do it all my way. Now I have to say I have had a considerable issue with control. I raised 2 children. I've been married to 2 men. But I am learning to let go. It doesn't matter if he doesn't clean up the kitchen the way I clean it up. You know, just let go of that and allow him to be who he is. So you can recognize your ego when you ever feel less than. Somebody might make a remark and you feel like less than perfect, less than smart, beautiful, whatever. When something has happened that reminds you of a hurt from the past, and boy, I did that one in spades for years. That was what really made me sick, was going over and over all the things that she did to me that were, you know, abusive, emotionally and psychologically abusive, and telling the stories over and over again. Stop telling those stories. Get out of that. Let it go. Love and bless. I mean, if my mother were still on the planet, and we did have a really wonderful closure before she passed away, I was able to say it was all perfect. It was a karma that I needed to go through, and I was telling Al, the angels told me, and it's in Spirit at Work, the angels said, you've had arthritis in every lifetime for 400 years because you refused to do the spiritual and emotional healing work. Well, now I've done it. And a psychic recently told me, you're going to be so happy when you die. Because I've achieved a great goal. I came into this lifetime to do it, and I finally did it. And kicking and screaming part of the way, but it feels pretty good, I have to say. I'm judging that it's a good thing. The ego is in control when you are not in the moment. Now this is a really tough thing, to always be in the moment. And who's the big expert on that? Eckhart Tolle, again. He wrote that book, The Power of Now. You know, God says, I am. God does not say, I was or I will be. I am. I am in this moment. I am speaking to these wonderful people, and they're all listening, and they're laughing at my jokes, and I feel great. So it's when you are in the moment, those things from the past lose their charge for you, and then you don't have to worry about what's in the future. If you're angry, you're looking at the past, and if you worry, you're living in the future. So it's important to just go, what is happening right now? What am I wearing? What's the weather doing? You know, what do I see? What do I hear? Go to your senses, and you will be in the moment. The senses are God's gift to tell us what's going on right now, in this moment. When you're disconnected from your intuition, and how many times have you had a feeling that maybe you should go this way instead of what you were planning to go this way? Like we're out driving, and you say, oh, no, I don't bother me today. I'm just going to go the way I want to, and then you get stuck in traffic or something. Or if you follow the intuition, you end up someplace and you're helping somebody who's hurt. And that's why Spirit was sending you in that direction. So it's really important to clear out all the garbage that's in the way so that you can get those messages clearly. Really important. In fact, I tell people the planet is going to the fifth dimension. Do you want to go with her? I want to go to the fifth dimension. My ego tells me that's a good thing to do. The fifth dimension is a place of great purity and clarity, and we can't take our third dimensional garbage to the fifth dimension. So that's why it's really important to clean this stuff up, let it go, back to the universe for its higher evolution. It's really important if you want to go there. But again, this is a choice. You like the third dimension, and a lot of people do. They're not ready to go. That's fine. Make your choice, but make it consciously. Don't let your ego make it for you. So you know that the ego's in control when you come from doubt and skepticism rather than certainty. It's like when that message comes in from Spirit, you know it's true. You know that it's important to listen. But if you say, oh, I don't think so, not today, then it's your ego. And you know it's in control when you think that something you can buy will make you feel better. And don't we hear that on the ego machine all the time? Eckhart Tolle says that when you begin to observe the ego within yourself, you are beginning to go around it. So that's why I'm giving you these pointers, these things that come up to say, oh, it's the ego, it's the wolf. Don't take your ego too seriously. When you detect egoic behavior, smile, say, oh, I remember you. You may want to laugh. In fact, laughter is one of the best ways to change your energy. There is a laughter club at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta on Wednesday evenings. This woman she's just great, and she comes and she says, you know, just start laughing. You don't feel like laughing? Laugh anyway. Just start laughing. Laugh with me. Come on. So how does that feel? I mean, that will change your energy in an instant. It feels wonderful, and you know what else? It's really good. It gets your lungs going and your diaphragm, and people can heal themselves. There was an article in Parade magazine not long ago that 15 minutes of laughter in a day can help people. I've forgotten the statistics, but it's very beneficial. So another God-given gift to really use often. So here is a bit of a riddle for you. It's a lot easier to recognize the ego in someone else than in yourself. Am I right? When someone annoys us, we probably think it's because their ego is acting out. However, is this your ego? If you were egoless, would you be annoyed by anything that anyone else could possibly do? No, you just start laughing, right? Or saying, Ho'opono, I love you, I forgive you. I love you, I forgive you. So think about that every time somebody, I'm really trying to do this more. When someone annoys me or I get in traffic, because I tend to be impatient, and the lights around here are way too long, my ego says, and I'm really working on releasing that. those judgments, and just being in the moment with it. Oh, well, it's a beautiful day. I have to sit here for 3 minutes and look at the clouds. Okay, that's good. That's beneficial for me. I must need to do that, or my higher self would see that I wouldn't have to sit here at this light for 3 minutes and I could go on my merry way. So all those little things, when they come up, look at them. Try not to be too analytical, but just say, oh, maybe that's my ego. Maybe I need to laugh. Or say my ho'oponopono, whatever it is. And there are many choices, other things that you can do. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. So to get your ego under control, we want to observe and acknowledge, rather than observe, acknowledge, and judge the heck out of everything. Teach your ego that it will still survive and have a function if all it does is observe and acknowledge. And I have a prayer that I'm going to give you shortly that will help you tell your ego, I love you, thank you for all you've done for me, but I'm really ready to move into a different place, and I love you free. I love that phrase. I love you free. And you can use that not just for the ego, but someone you were letting go from your life. I love you enough to set you free. Awareness and the ego cannot coexist. So all that's required to be free of the ego is to be aware of it. And that's those pointers that I've been giving you. Oh, that's the ego. And the minute you do that, then the ego doesn't have that throttle hold on you like it did. Eckhart Tolle, the expert on the power of now, says the ego's greatest enemy is the present moment. So once you go into your present moment routine, you're taking a very, very positive step on letting go of the ego. So drown your ego in love. Just love what you love. Love the ego fully and trust that your ego will not be able to escape. When you love, love yourself. Start by loving yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. It's hard to do sometimes. And I had one client, this is several years ago, and I told him, look yourself in the eye, in the mirror, and say, I love you 200 times. And so he came to me for a session one day, and I said, well, how are you doing? He says, well, I'm up to 120. So I don't mean 200 times literally, but I mean, that's fine. If you want to do 200, it certainly will not hurt anything. But it's just the idea, when you see yourself in the mirror, say, I love you. Don't say, oh, you have like those commercials, you know, oh, I have bad breath, don't come near me. No, you're beautiful, you're perfect, just the way you are, even with bedhead, you're still beautiful. I mean, God made that hair, and you have to sleep, and so when you get up in the morning, it's going to be a little messy. It's beautiful. Celebrate it. And your ego can't stand up to that. It will have to be loved free. So when you love yourself, feel embraced and empowered, and relax. Here's another secret. Practice deep breathing. After a while, your ego is going to be so bored with this that it will pretend to leave you. It's so curious that it's going to come back and get mellowed out in spite of itself, and then it doesn't have this power to run your life. Another thing is that the ego is dependent on restricted respiration. So, I mean, think of a time when you were afraid of something, and think of how you were breathing at that time. In fact, you probably weren't breathing at all if it was really scary. So the first thing to do is what? Take a deep breath down deep in your belly, down here. Not this shallow breathing in your chest. Down, pretend you're breathing down into your belly, and then let it out slowly, and hold it out for, say, 4 or 6 seconds in another one, very deep breath. Now, you want to give your ego a job. So what I want you to do is close your eyes, try not to fall asleep. Imagine the most beautiful place in nature that you know. It is dusk. The first tinges of the sunset are beginning to show in the high clouds. Now watch the colors. Be very present. Be in the moment with this. Now we want to use the ego's love of analysis and division to count the colors. How many colors are there in the sky? Now you wait 5 minutes, and what's happened? The colors have changed. How many colors are there now? They're developing. The clouds are changing shape. And what looked like a rabbit may look like a house. Just look at this and let your ego absorb all these variations of the colors and the shapes. So now that you've done your accounting, shift into observation. Use the memories of your inner child, or use your emotions, imagination, or one of your dreams. Avoid thinking about this now, just feel it. Imagine yourself as one with the sunset. You're moving forward into the clouds, into the colors. You are the sunset. See the colors with the eyes of love and non-judgment. Be in love with the sunset. Just accept the colors and the forms of the clouds. Now go to your other senses. If you could feel and touch this sunset, what would it feel like? Go to your sense of touch and reach out and imagine or sense how that feels. Now go to your sense of taste. Just for a second, just go to your taste buds and then imagine if you could taste the sunset. What would it taste like? Your favorite ice cream? Popcorn? Taste it. Make it real. Is your mouth watering? Now go to your sense of smell. It's very closely related to taste. If you could smell this beautiful sunset, what would it smell like? Now, pull back a little bit and look at your sunset as it continued to develop and become, as the sky gets darker. How do these colors look to a bird? A frog? A leaf? A flower? Now the colors have deepened into darkness. The sunset is complete. Thank this sunset for existing, for bringing beauty to your life, for bringing you into the present moment. You might want to thank Mother Nature or anyone else. And then I'd like you to come back into the room, into your body. Gently move your hands and feet. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So how did that feel? Like
a very nice sunset.
Good. Anybody else have an experience you'd like to share? It tasted good? Oh, good. What's it taste like? Maple syrup. That's a good one. Anybody else want to share? Did you like that? What's your ego doing right now? Anybody?
Smiling.
It's what?
Smiling.
Smiling. Okay. That's a good
It's
thing.
protesting. It's
Oh,
saying, I
good.
didn't want to taste that darn thing. It was too darn hot. But I had a nice experience. I lived in it.
Well, good. And this shows you that you've done something growthful because your ego is protesting. So I suggest you might want to try this a few more times. That's very good work. I commend you. A little shaky, a little fear. Okay, excellent. Oh, she says when she went to expand and to be the whole sky, that her ego was protesting. Yes. Okay. Well, again, this shows good work, and to keep doing it, and well, I'm going to give you in fact, let's do that right now. I'll give you the ego prayer. Let's see. Would you pass through that? Yeah. I'll keep one. This is a prayer from Patricia Diane Cota Robles, whom you may know. How many of you know Patricia Diane Cota Robles? She's a lovely woman doing great work for the growth of the planet. She's in Tucson, Arizona, and she writes really wonderful stuff. And this ego prayer is on a tape that she has that I bought, and I just had to write it all down. And I used it in my very first classes, and I'm still using it in my classes because it just is so basic and so good. We'll have this repeated. Oh, yes, we can do it. Yes, okay, this will be on a PDF for the Atlanta Forum. If you're watching this on your computer, the PDF is attached. Okay, good. All right, so let's read this together. Human ego, I love you. Come on. Let's start over. Okay, let's all start together. Human ego, I love you. I appreciate any learning experiences you have provided for me during my earthly sojourn. But now it is time for my true holy Christ self-reality to have full dominion of my physical, etheric, mental, and emotional bodies. Through the power of God I am, I command you into the light, and I love you free. Okay, just that first part, and you get how you're saying, there's nothing wrong with you, human ego. I love you, and you've helped me so much through my lifetime, saved my life when I was going to hurt myself, but it's time for me to move on, and I love you free. So it's not going to feel like a rejected child, because it is like a child. Okay, now let's go to the second part. Through the power of God, anchored in every human heart, I invoke my holy Christ self to take full command of my four lower bodies. Blessed One, walk through me and reflect through my thoughts, words, actions, and feelings the perfection of heaven. Remove any trace of resistance or discomfort, and allow me to apply the laws of vibrant health, eternal youth, and radiant beauty easily and effortlessly. I accept that with every breath I take, I am emulating the perfection of the Christ self, grown to full stature, and now made manifest in the world of form. So be it, I am. Now, if you want to use other words than Holy Christ self-reality, just edit this the way you want so that it's meaningful for you. Some people get confused by that word Christ. They think that's Jesus' last name and don't understand Christ consciousness. So I say, okay, just put in there whatever words work for you. Make it work for you. That's the important thing. So Deepak Chopra has some wonderful recommendations that center around intention. First of all, know your intentions. Set your intentions high. See yourself in the light. I mean, that's a good one anytime. See everyone else in the light, including your ego. Reinforce your intentions every day. Learn to forgive yourself. Once you do that, you can forgive others. Learn to let go. Revere what is holy. Allow God to take over and embrace the unknown. And then my recommendations, my final blast for you is to breathe and breathe deeply. Stay in the moment. Detach with love. Accept. Everything just is. Allow. Avoid judging. Forgive. Be in love. And be yourself. Capital S. I suggest you look at every challenge in your life as a test from Spirit to see how you're doing. And know that as long as you're on the planet, you're going to be having challenges. Sometimes people will call me and they say, oh my gosh, listen to this, what's happened now? I said, well, you're still on the planet. I don't care how much work you do, you are still going to be having events. Otherwise, you know what happens. You get bored. And the last thing your soul wants is to be bored. You have a boring life, it's going to say, well, you know, I came here to learn lessons. This is boring. I'm out of here. Boom, you're gone. Not that that's the worst thing in the world. The difference is how you handle them and how long it takes you to remember to respond with love, to know that when that airplane drops, you're safe. Whatever happens to your physical body, who you really are is immortal and can never be harmed by anything or anyone. And don't let your ego tell you different. So I have another, my class that I teach is going to start 3 weeks from yesterday, August 22nd. It's 10 Saturday mornings. This is a short commercial. And here's the flyer of information. And Margie, if you want to talk to her about, of course it's changed a lot. It's now on PowerPoint. And I keep adding to it. This will be the 17th time that I've taught it. So thank you for your attention, and I will be happy to take your questions. Okay, that's fine, good. Sacred geometry class, it's a 10-week class, and we have one more class to go this week. He's terrific. I mean, my husband is not an easy guy to impress, and he loves this. He loves Randall, because he's really smart. So he knows his sacred geometry. Yes, so can I, yes.
Dr. Grant.
Call me Lois, please.
Lois. When you say to, as the illustration to a file, I love you, I forgive you, or when you advocate that that be done verbally as a declaration, can you say for me, what is the psychological dynamic that's taking place there? What is the energetic reality that you can conceive of that is actually taking place?
Al, right? Yes. Al has asked that when someone says the I love you, I forgive you, or another positive affirmation, what is happening actually in the energetic body why is this beneficial, and what's going on? What's the explanation? And that's really a good question. Except that I know that when I think a positive thought, I feel better. And when I feel better, my cells feel better. When I feel better emotionally, because if you know Candace Pert, who wrote The Emotions, this book on emotions, she's a PhD biochemist who proved in the biochemical laboratory that the thoughts we think put out neuropeptides into every cell of our body. And if you're putting out positive thoughts, the neuropeptides are going to be positive and that's with the plus, and positive energetically. That is beneficial to your body. If you're grousing around and you're angry with somebody and you have a lot of resentment, like I did for years, I did it till I got sick when I was 38. So, and I was really angry with my mother. And every time I had that thought, I was putting out negative neuropeptides, went into my joints. I'm going to have surgery on my feet in January. You think it's like, but I'm going to do it. It destroyed my joints with these thought patterns. So that's the biochemical explanation. And energetically, it's just the way you feel. I mean, I just feel so much more positive. So, okay. Yes.
Now, if you really don't have any regard or feel like you towards somebody, and then you go through the, emotions of I love you, I forgive you, and you really, you have that attitude at all, does it become easier, or is it as effective, or do you just kind of set up the stage and hopefully, really,
Okay, so the question is, if you don't have issues, if you don't have rheumatoid arthritis or some autoimmune condition or whatever that you need to heal, are you still getting positive benefit?
well, if say you don't feel the love and forgiveness for an individual, and yet you say it, does that sort of
Okay,
set
so
you up to really feel that way?
if you don't feel love and forgiveness for somebody and you say this anyway, is it going to make a difference? Yes. Yes, it may not make a difference to them, and they may not change their behavior, but what you're changing is yourself, capital S. You're,
Just by saying it.
yes. And try it, work with it, and just see what happens. Just experiment with it. And I think you'll be very surprised. It's like it diffuses the feelings, the annoyance, like, oh, how can somebody be so stupid? Okay, I love you, I forgive you for being stupid. But you will feel that it's like a relief. That's the way I feel it. Okay? Yes?
A lot of teachers, for instance, Eckhart Tolle or Thich Nhat Hanh, or many of the teachers tell us, and you just did too, that we should feel love, and that will help us. But nobody ever describes or defines what love is. Can you do that?
Ooh. What is love? Love is who you really are. Love is what the Great Spirit, God, Goddess, all it is, Source, whatever name you use for God, which is a nice convenient word, so I'll just use that for now. And don't we teach our kids that when they're 2 years old? God is love every Sunday school? I mean, even my Baptist Sunday school used to say, God is love. And I see this when I go out there to the Great Central Sun, which is the home of Mother, Father, God, and the nature of that being is, and the Elohim and the Seraphim and all these wondrous beings of light, and the nature of those beings that they are 100% pure, perfect, precious, absolute, unconditional love. And when that being split itself into the 6 billion fragments, each one of those fragments is a little piece of that unconditional love, and that's what we incarnate in our physical bodies. And we take on these challenges, like rheumatoid arthritis, for example, so that we can clear it away and remember that that's who we are, that pure, perfect love, which is the highest, it's the highest energy in the multiverse and at the ground of everything. I think they're showing now that when the galaxies were created, that it comes from love.
So when I say I love my fellow man or woman, I am saying I love the divine in you.
Exactly. I mean, that's what namaste is, the blessing. I can't do that very well. The God in me honors the God in you. Yes, and you say that enough times, you're going to create it, because then the neuropeptides start coming out, and your body feels better, and you say, oh, yeah, this feels good. Is that okay? Try it, you'll like it. If you're not already doing it. I think this is a pretty advanced group, and you're all doing it. Anything else? If you'd like me to, oh, yes. Demonstrate the breathing technique. Okay, close your eyes. Well, yeah, you want to, am I going to be okay, Brian? You want to breathe deep into your belly. So and through your nose, you breathe in through your nose. And expand your rib cage and feel that going, and then just hold it in, say 6 seconds, and then blow it out through your mouth slowly. You can actually change your brain waves by the relationship. If you breathe in 8 counts and out 8 counts, and you're going to be in, I think that's beta, but if you go to 16, you will feel yourself getting tired, like going into delta. Into 16 counts. It's really hard. You want to try it? Okay. In 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Out 2, 3, 4, 5. Blow. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's a long time. But you have to kind of practice these things. Yes. So there are lots of ways to do it. Some people say hold it in, hold it out 6 seconds. Just experiment with it and do what works for you. Yes, Bobby.
The doctor Watts, I can't think of his name, and he says that you breathe in 7, hold it for 4 seconds, and blow it out 8 seconds.
Okay.
Do it 3 times, and it just clears your whole.
Breathe in 7, hold it 4, and
seconds,
and then
let it out, blow it out.
blow out 8 seconds. Okay. Dr. Watts. I don't know who that is, but well, that's the way I feel. Just, and play with it. Do, experiment, develop your own system.
Vale, Dr. Vale, I think.
Rail?
Vale.
V-A-L-E.
V-A-L-E. Dr. Vale.
Yeah. Yes. I have a problem with the W.
Oh, W. Oh, Andrew Weil. Oh, now I know who you mean. Okay. Well, Andrew Weil is a brilliant man. He's done a lot. He's the first person to have integrative medicine taught at the University of Arizona Medical School, which is like a pioneer. Okay. So I want to tell you a little story about this. Is like the old man that's on the streets of New York. And he's walking along, and this young guy comes up to him and he says, "How do I get to Carnegie Hall?" And the old man says, "Practice, practice, practice." So, play with it and practice. You start meditating, you're not going to feel you need to do it for 6 weeks every day to really start feeling the relaxation effects. That's what I recommend. That's the Lois Grant. So, okay. Thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure, and I'll be hanging around.